Hey everybody, and welcome back to another all-new X's for Show, your premier media response show, and you can check us out at X's for Show on all your social media. As for me, I'm Nico, and you can check me out at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION.
And I'm TK. You can find me at TK Elemental.
And that makes me your producer, Kevo, and you can find me at Kevo Really. That's KEVOREALLY. Are we here today, boys?
Mobile games!
We're talking some Marvel mobile games. I mean, there are plenty of other mobile games that we love, right? I love just about anything where you switch things, right? I love switching things to make rows of things.
A good bejewel.
But I also don't mind if it's a badonut. You know what I mean? I just want to switch. It could be a little Disney character faces. I just want to swap things sometimes.
Jake is very much into Merge Mansion, which the advertising got what they have paid to get like Kathy Bates, Pedro Pascal. Yeah, these insane commercials that I'm like, that must be an AI of Kathy Bates that she's going to sue them for, right? Because like it's called Merge Man. Like this is the.
It doesn't matter. It can't be nominated for a Grammy.
Anyway, Jake really is in that same boat with you guys. I really love mobile card games.
I love me a mobile card game so good.
We're going to talk a little bit about a mobile game that I love very much that you cannot technically play in the US, and it's a Marvel mobile game. It's a Marvel MOBA game called Super War that I think is fantastic, and NetEase decided not to make it a US thing.
Now, I do love me a good switch 'em, but I will admit the game of all time that I have invested the most in, that is not a game that involves a funny little Italian plumber who I can only imagine is a very sweet gentleman on a date. Of course, I'm talking about Luigi. Is Contest of Champions. It's, I like block, punch harder, punch through a block. That's the whole system. That's very playable. But Kevo, you got me addicted to a game that only verges on Marvel in the vergiest of ways. Disney Emoji Blitz isn't so much a game as it is
a lifestyle.
It's a crane machine for your heart, and and then you get the emojis, but I don't talking fucking Elsa emojis. Oh my god, you know what expresses exactly how I feel about this? A Mickey Premium Bar. Oh no, your dad got hit by a bus? Country Bear. Like, how do you use that to communicate? Kevo, what is it you love about Emoji Blitz?
Simplicity, really. It is something where you can take it a lot more seriously because there's missions and things that you can pay attention to and you can strategize, or you can just like swipe and play and have fun. I frequently get to 1,000,000 points in a round on a good day, just from virtue of how long I've been playing it and how long I've been leveling up, not even with any real strategy. And I'm sure there's people who get so much more. I've been playing it for 6 years. You just started. I am sure by the end of the year, you are going to surpass me. And that is okay, because I just play it real chill. I just like the colors and the characters. It's really fun. Back in June, they introduced some Golden Girls, and I'm sorry you missed that period. But they do crazy stuff like that because all the properties they have. So that's really fun.
It's an IP switch-a-palooza.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be fair, we're like 3 tiers of casual in gaming, because I feel like maybe not this year, but in less time than it took Nico to get to his level in Contest of Champions, I will get there.
Oh, and that's for sure, because anyone else who plays, and they have adjusted the difficulty 7 times, and they have now made this a friendly game, because I am telling you, when this game started, it was not friendly.
No,
early Marvel Contest of Champions was a test of my patience.
I mean, and we can get into it in a minute, but I would argue I 100% see how it is friendlier, because I have literally been at the arrival of them saying, like, we're just straight up making these easier.
It's like the 3rd time they've done it. It's so
right.
I'm so grateful.
But it is still a very casual, unfriendly game to a certain point. It really
It's a bitch.
the gameplay mechanics require a kind of strategy and planning
What?
that
But sorry, Arturo's in the room, and that's just a real fucking hot look, right? I'm so sorry. You were saying.
It's a tough game. Like, there's a lot of strategy involved. In my checking through to figure out how to get past some stuff, we'll get into it. It is a surprisingly tough game for a mobile game that seems to intentionally be not courting the casual crowd, which is a really interesting strategy. Kabam is clearly doing their own thing.
And it's in that same vein that we're going to talk about. I believe it won Mobile Game of the Year, Marvel Snap, which has been such a runaway hit. You know, at the same time, I think the most frustrating thing about Marvel Snap is that it has been such a runaway hit. There's that sort of like over under. Hey, and Arturo, so Arturo, longtime contributor. Anytime he wants to, we're both so desperate to show Arturo. Anytime you want to come back and say, hey, on air, Arturo, you just show your pretty face and you can come talk about all the Snap and all the
Crackle and the pop.
MCoC goodness.
I feel like we have better subjects that we can bring Arturo on for.
Well, this is true. Now, you know, I want to talk for a minute about what Marvel Contest of Champions is. It is quite straightforward, just like a punch kind of game. It is as basic a system for fighting as you can go with, right?
It's as basic a control scheme.
And so I want to talk for a moment about the game. I want to talk for a moment about the game. Gameplay in general. One of the things that Marvel Contest of Champions offers is a really easy way to step into playing as these characters, to step into being one of a huge multitude of fighters. I think what's really crazy is that the list is like 272 players long, but when it started, there were so few characters, I think, that like banged. It's really interesting. But so Marvel Contest of Champions is essentially you get a roster of characters, you pick 5, you go into a map, fight your way through the dungeon, come out with rewards, repeat. Oh, I see there's because my MCoC Alliance partner, he knows what's up.
So you get your 5 characters and you go through a stacked series of one-on-one fights using your characters. They are all, it is a fighter game. So you have quick attacks, which are tapping your screen, medium attacks, which are swiping on your screen, and heavy attacks, which are holding your screen, building up, and then hitting. You've got a block, and eventually you develop different kinds of blocks and a dodge, which is slightly different than a standard dodge.
And if then you are 2% smart, you learn to live on parry.
And then you have 3 levels of special attack that build up over time. So this is the basic gameplay. And you're right insofar as it starts off very straightforward, very simple. You can make it through quite a lot like this. But something that happens as you go on is your character, you start to notice your character has inherent buffs and inherent ability to debuff their opponents. Your opponents have debuffs as well. The maps have certain debuffs and advantages, and as you go through, these things start to matter more and more to the point where you really have to strategize who you have leveled up, what their debuffs are, and how you can survive. There was a point in a map recently where you basically, it was not a hard map at all, but it required a champion who would cause bleed. And if you did not have a champion that was leveled up and could cause bleed, you simply could not proceed. It was a totally straightforward fight, really wasn't hard. But if for some reason you just didn't have one of these champions, you would fail a very easy fight. And so you really, as time goes on, have to start strategizing like that. And it gets staggeringly intricate in your need to know a huge glossary of terms about the eccentricities of what a fighter is going to bring to the table.
And there's constantly new ones.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I had to jump in with how
No.
constantly there are damn new ones.
And so that's the thing that I bring up when I say that it's not a casual game. The amount of time that you have to spend learning what the functional mechanics of things behind the scenes of this game are way beyond just knowing how to swipe at the right times and throw a good punch and do combos, but very much which of your characters have certain abilities, who on a map is going to require those abilities, how you level everybody up such that you come to a particular map with the abilities that you need to pass that map so that you can level up other people so that you can pass another map. It just gets really intricate to a certain point. And it is not casual play friendly in the least, which I just think is a fascinating strategy.
It's only not casual play friendly if you're looking to advance on the story mode. If you just want to do daily quests and you just get up to a certain point, you're set.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, totally. You can just go in there and futz around a little bit. And I guess there are people like that.
I want to jump in because we're getting way into the game plan. So I want to go back just a little bit. I want to jump in real quick with yes to Talir, right? I do love the shirtless Hercules.
Is and he does a peck bounce when he wins. It's really fantastic. Right? Hercules is a great character. His pecs don't make sense in a world that has rounding, but the squareness of them is its own sort of impressive.
And I want to just, point out, Kevo found these images on his own. And one of the things that's crazy is this term uses the name Contest of Champions. Contest of Champions was Marvel's original crossover back in 1982. It predates Secret Wars, which is considered the first line-wide crossover. And one of the things that's interesting is if you search Marvel Contest of Champions, you might get Contest of Champions. You might get Contest of Champions 2. You might get this game, or you might get the mini-series that's attached to this game. There are so many things because Marvel, just like DC, understands the quality of branding within a singular concept. And just to TK's point about gameplay, I really quickly, while we were on air, did a quick fight and sent Kevo a bunch of screenshots of it. So here is Elektra with she has a relic on her. Real quick, they decided that rather than completely overhaul the game, the fastest way to make the game a little bit stronger and a little bit more competitive was to add these summons. So you kind of get a limit break summon in this game now. They are called relics. I think they unlock it. You didn't get them till you hit
2.
Yeah, they take forever to unlock, but
yeah.
They are amazing. They come in, they do crazy damage. And so, Kevo, if you just want to cycle through those images for a minute, this is just a fight between Elektra and Quake. Daisy Johnson. Brian Michael Bendis is absolutely wetting himself at this fight. You can actually see how specific some of the fight movements are here with the screen caps themselves. They literally show you just how many points of animation are in each one of these movements. Now, you can't actually see all of them. I run a Pixel 6a, so I run a pretty recent phone, all things considered. And so I have really great, visual time. But when I was running my Pixel 5, I was missing a lot of frames. There's just such clarity on these fights. You can see the energy forming around Quake's hand here. You can see Elektra in a sort of like a repose kind of blocking position. Now I have if you look in the middle, there's a little green circle that's lit up. That little green circle indicates that I had the game on autoplay because I wanted to give you guys my full attention. Elektra is, as Talir points out, Elektra looking thick and fine. They definitely did her a lot of justice. They made sure she looked awesome, and they gave her moves that look like her. I think there's a couple of things where, some of the women do sort of glide like magical ballerina feathers, but for the most part,
so does Charles. Professor Xavier glides very much and is a great character, but like
Did you look
this
for
is
Did you look for a GIF of it? I looked for a GIF of it. I looked for a GIF of the intro. There's an
Yeah.
unbelievable animation intro for Xavier. He literally has a custom animation intro. No one else has one. It's like Xavier,
that's not true. Other people do, but they're rare and
few and far between. They're like
few and far between.
Spider-Ham.
I was gonna say Spider-Ham is another one, but it's fantastic. Like that, there are little touches like that. That just for no reason, it's not like a class of character, it's not like a level of character, but every once in a while they're like, this person needs a specific animation for their intro, they need specific animations for their gameplay, which is more Spider-Ham. And it just, certain characters, they felt like it, and that speaks to me on a level of like, the company is full of fans and is full of people that just went the extra mile with their work and their art at a point where they felt like it would make sense, not for any kind of editorial mandate or for money or anything. Just every once in a while you see a thing that somebody was like, yeah, we'll hype it up here. I just like that.
Now, to take a look briefly at the game itself, it had originally launched in 2014. And when it launched in December 2014, it launched with a pretty decent roster of initial characters. You had Mohawk Storm, which I think is really cool. You had Classic Thor, Classic Rhino, Abomination, Deadpool, Colossus, New Xavier School, Cyclops, which I only want to point out, that New Xavier School era got done the dirtiest done deed, because anybody who was playing this game at the year 2 anniversary, I'll know because you have the year 2 anniversary icon like some of us. You might remember that Magneto was originally labeled, what was it, New X-Men Magneto. That was like all new X-Men Magneto. That was the matching Magneto to this Cyclops. And when that costume got reused for Hoxpox, they renamed the character. But that's all they did. They just renamed the character. But until, oh my God, so for 5 years, or 6 years, that Magneto was all new X-Men Magneto, and they just rename him. And I'm like, oh, synergy, baby. Synergy, baby.
Baby.
It was rough, man. I remember feeling robbed. We had Jim Lee Wolverine. You have Bucky Winter Soldier. You have a really classic T'Challa Black Panther, who would get a dozen iterations, and thank goodness for that. You had classic Captain America. You have Blackagar Boltagon himself. You have Gamora, Ronan, who I just found out the other day that Gamora did not debut until 1980.
They should replace Blackagar Boltagon with just Anson Mount.
That should just be his name. And
they should just change it to Anson Mount.
Because it's as ridiculous, actually.
Anson Mountagon.
Right.
Also, I hate him way less.
Yes. We have...
But weirdly, I hate Anson Mount's Black Bolt the most.
Okay.
I like Anson Mount the most, then Black Bolt, then Anson Mount's Black Bolts, in that order. Anyway, sorry, that's an interruption for nothing that matters. Please
It matters
continue.
Completely. If I
Everything
can do 5
matters.
of them an episode, geez. Ronan the Accuser, as opposed to Ronan the
Ronan,
Ninja Man.
not Ronin.
This is Ronan, not Ronin. As opposed, like, so when
Again,
you're like,
this is
about,
another
like,
one.
Rodan versus Rodin.
Make it Lee Pace.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that Lee Pace is in so much makeup that he can at some point come back as a different person in the MCU.
Oh, Hundy Hundo.
You know, if Gemma Chan can do it with like just blue skin, then yeah.
So then we have Iron Fist, a classic Iron Man. We have Vision, Star-Lord, classic Spider-Man, classic Scarlet Witch, Drax, Hawkeye, Hulk, Punisher, Juggernaut, and Kang the Conqueror. Also, I absolutely agree. Who wouldn't Mountagon? Anson, right?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't do that, as Talir Agron points out so aggressively. Honest to goodness, I'm kind of glad I didn't come in till a little bit later. I remember when I started playing this game, and I felt like there were just so many characters that I was never going to like really catch up. I remember when they released, I want to say one of my like first was, oh my gosh, Old Man Logan. It was weird having such a limited pool of characters to come in with. I originally had a spreadsheet, and in that spreadsheet, I was like, have the 3-star, have the 2-star, have the 4-star. But there is something that you, TK, just don't know, and it's gonna.
There's lots.
It's gonna blow your beautiful brains, right?
You and me both, brother.
Until year 5, you could sell champions.
Oh no, I knew that.
It means that I sold a ton of champions I've never gotten back because their rarity has gone up.
Yeah.
And so now I just don't have them.
Yeah.
But I never sold anything that wasn't a 3-star or a 2-star that I didn't have the 4-star of.
That's what happens when you whore them out, Nico.
It's a terrible decision. So,
I mean, I get it though. There's a lot that I would get rid of. I just don't like them clogging up my shit. Okay, I can't think of anything off the top. I would get rid of Modocs.
I would absolutely streamline. There are so many duplicates of Spider-Man, Kevo. I'm really glad you put this image up on the board, because once a year there is a spider event, right? Every month there is a beautiful event. They design these maps, and the maps, like, there's 5 or 6 styles of these maps where there's like 5 unique branches, or there's 5 interconnected branches. There's so many versions of these maps, and at least once a year, because at least once a year there's either a spider movie or a spider comic event, there's a spider event, and the spider event always comes along with cool bonus challenges. Like, it'll say, if you use Miles Morales 20 times this month, you'll get bonus gold. But it can be so fucking tricky when it's like, use Spider-Man, and it lists the 7 versions of Spider-Man you can use, but you have the other 4. What I'm really glad is gone, and TK, I don't even know if you were playing, because you started playing a year and a half ago or so. I don't know if this was part of the game when you started playing, but there used to be challenges that were like, use a 2-star Spider-Man, use a 3-star Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And they just make it so frustrating.
They just did something like that. Anyway.
So, it winds up being such a challenge to sort of go through your roster, because I agree. I love the 2 versions of Daredevil. They're the exact same damn character. There is no difference. Meanwhile, there's things like there's 3 or 4 versions of Black Widow. There is a movie Black Widow, a comic Black Widow. There's a Yelena Belova, who's somewhere in between. And there's Clairvoyant Black Widow, who was a Golden Age character that was most notable for her inclusion in the J. Michael Straczynski modern classic that almost never finished coming out. Hey, I'm looking at you, Jay. The 12?
The 12!
Those 4 versions of Black Widow, 2 are tremendous, 2 suck. I would never use Yelena, and I would never use Comic Classic if I don't have to. But movie Black Widow, Deadly Origin as she's known, has this unbelievable secondary attack that, like, there's a thing called shock damage, right? TK mentioned bleed damage earlier. And they're all a little bit different, and they affect people differently, and there's different levels and different percentages. The shock damage from Black Widow, Deadly Origin is like none other. And so, it kind of becomes a matter of what version of Natalie do you want to use? Because I'll admit, I make some dumb decisions about my team. Kevo, I sent you images of my roster earlier. If you would not mind pulling those, because the thing about your roster is your roster is what you want to show to the world right now. When you start the game, you start with whatever characters you have, right? But as you build your team, you pick characters you love, you pick characters you like, you pick people, and you can't help who you draw. It is kind of gacha like that, where you get the role you get. Now, this is my top 6-star list. I have more 5-stars that aren't here that would actually go between these numbers, right? But these are the 6 stars that I've rolled, that I've invested the most in, that I've leveled up the furthest, that I have brought to the highest hero level. I saw you have a finger, Teak.
Yeah. So I just want to point out, when you say that some of your 5-star would go between these, what you're talking about is your 6 stars are not all the way leveled up.
Right. My
And
stars have some room to go. You can see from the upper right corner of their icons, there's an arrow saying there's leveling up to go.
And so because your 5 stars are almost all maxed out, they have reached a level where some of them can be more effective in battle than some of the 6 stars. And that's another interesting part of the game. Leveling can get to a point of its own intricacy and difficulty that characters of a lesser level broadly, or at their best a lesser level, become the better option in fights because you have not fully taken a certain character to where they can go.
And that's actually one of the things that I love about this game. You know, I see that Atuma and Electra are 1,000 hero points off. There's kind of nothing I can do that my highest rated skill champion, which is what the fist stands for, it's skill, right? You can actually see, I think almost every icon is represented here. The vial,
you got science, you got
under
tech.
Hulk represents science. The sort of squiggly, sort of like microchip looking symbol is
It's a circuit.
It's vaguely a circuit. Under
No, it's like
Shuri,
it's a circuit board circuit.
it's meant to look like one. Under, under Shuri is tech. The planet next to Gallon, which is the name of the guy who came to our universe and like fused with the power of Galactus to become Galactus. That's this iteration of him. Gallon is a cosmic champion. The fist under Atuma, Kraven, and Elektra is a skill champion. The genetic helix beneath Iceman means he's a mutant champion. The eye with the moon in it, that's vaguely the Eye of Agamotto, is Ghost Rider. Underneath Ghost Rider is a mystic champion. And I think all that's
those are our 6.
4, 5. Oh yeah, all 6 are there. Wow, great for me.
Good for you. And that's the thing, like they are all strong against one type, weak against another.
Absolutely.
And so you immediately, the first choice that you have to start making in more high level play is the maximum you can have on a team is 5. So inevitably there will be something that you don't have a strong character for. You know, you will, on the map, you will encounter a character that you don't have a type that is strong against.
And you know, it's funny because you have to make the decision about who you leave out. Now, my core team tends to be Hulk, Iceman. I always have Gallon because he's got such cool specials. Now, I tend to use Shuri as my tech champion, but the thing that I alternate is I either bring Doom as a mystic champion, or if I want to bring a skill champion, I bring Elektra. And now that might sound a little surprising because you can see that I have 2 skill champions with hero ratings above Elektra. But what Elektra brings to the table that's really unique is Elektra has not just special abilities, but her abilities are extremely good. She has a bleed effect that you can activate by using her first special. Her first special attack charges up the fastest. And when you're charging up your special quick, you want an ability that works really well as your level 1. Having an ability that casts bleed, like Elektra does, makes the gameplay a lot simpler because when somebody already has a bleed effect on them and you punch them, it does a lot more damage. So while I do know that Atuma and Kraven both have great abilities, nothing compares to Elektra, that bleed effect, and her special ability of Assassin, which makes it much easier to defeat somebody when they are below 20% HP. So, you know, there's reason and rhyme to who you use. I love using King Groot because his poison effect is legit. His second level special does a shit ton of damage and puts poison or a toxic effect on the opponent so they continue to lose HP as you keep playing. That's actually one of the big themes of my team. The only person who doesn't really have a great effect is it's really hard to get the bleed effect from Planet Hulk. Iceman gives you a freeze burn. Ghost Rider can make you bleed. There's a lot of cool effects. TK, do you have any favorite special effects you go for?
I am always on the lookout for a good bleed.
Bleed. I feel like Sweeney Todd. Bring me your bleeders.
Blade was my bleed guy for a long time.
Wasn't he your first 5-star?
Yes, Blade was my first 5-star. Yeah. Then I got a 6-star Mantis, who was not my first 6-star. But her sleep effect is a real banger. She also has, I don't know if it is specifically described, but some of the spider people have a kind of movement and agility that make them very fun to play. And Nightcrawler has it as well. His is more in the form of his dodge is a teleportation, and it really confuses your opponent. But so that my bleed is Blade, and sometimes I will sacrifice that for the sleep effect of Mantis. I'm trying to think who else is like my main person is Guillotine 2099, and I will not say a ton more after that so we can get into some of the OCs from this game. But Guillotine 2099 has a great effect in her first special that reduces the special buildup of other characters, and that can be insanely useful because a 3-bar special buildup or 3-bar special can really end a game.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so when
Instantly.
you have a character that can knock that out, that can be a game changer, literally. So I love my Guillotine 2099.
I'm so
And
glad
she is original.
I'm so glad you brought her up, because that really is one of the craziest things about this game. You know, when you're talking about characters that are original to games, you need to think about like what permission the creators might have had when they created this character. Were they looking to create somebody that would be a long-lasting character in the Marvel Universe? Were they looking to just create something that they could build with assets easily and could execute that worked within the confines of their game structure? And the thing that the team from Contest of Champions has in common with the Marvel Future Fight folk, that's a fun thing to try and say, is that they created characters who would ultimately go on to be added to the Marvel Universe. Now, admittedly, Guillotine was added in the form of the Marvel Contest of Champions comic, which exists to tie into this. But while the, look, whatever you think of him, you think of him, but I am not like here to, add to the Rick Remender love pile. Rick Remender's, man, I got so annoyed that I have to give Rick Remender any kind of praise. Rick Remender got to create Venompool first in the pages of a What If, and until then, there had been no version of like Venom Deadpool. This game, Marvel Contest of Champions, would go on to create a Venompool that would then be essentially copied by Rob Liefeld into Batter Blood, a Deadpool miniseries that just recently started coming out in 2023. So Venompool actually had his like canon debut in the pages of, in the screens of Marvel Contest of Champions. So it's really interesting. Kevo, I believe you have an asset ready to show off Guillotine. Now, one of the things that people might not realize about characters like Guillotine is that Marvel is so willing to give the creators at Kabam room to, I don't want to just say develop and design, but they're given room to create their own canon. And not only did they create Guillotine, but Guillotine has an ongoing narrative where she has like a regular nemesis who is Morningstar, another character unique to this universe. And in
her sister, right?
I believe, yeah.
Yeah.
And in the course of this narrative, it's very Urza and Mira, right? Yeah. In the course of this narrative, Morningstar goes on to transform into Purgatory, and when you get Guillotine 2099, it is just absolutely crazy that even the lore of this universe gets like sub-lore in a way that dude, it meant so much to me that you started playing this. I'm so grateful that the whole X's for podcast team back in the heart of the pandemic. And this is where, okay, I'll just take the 2 seconds to do it now real quick. The pandemic was hard for me, man. If I didn't have my husband and my guys, I never could have survived ever. It was the hardest social experience of my life. And the thing I remember like waking up and being like, I would turn to Kevo and be like, oh, they did it again. Marvel's Contest of Champions just kind of kept dropping us freebies during the pandemic. They just kept being like, it's hard, it's scary, please don't go outside, here's 1,000,000 gold, go have fun. Like, they just kept giving us things and being like, thank you for being a loyal player during this really hard time. It means everything to us that you're keeping this game going. And like, they made you feel like you had a family. They made you feel like you had love coming to you during a time where not everybody did. And that was something that made me say, I'm going to be a fan of this franchise till the day they retire this game. I was so grateful that somebody said, you're not alone, when I really needed someone to say it. And that they put that much attention not into just the gameplay, but into the players really means a lot. So thank you so much, Kabam.
And I think we saw a similar thing from Pokemon Go, which was fantastic. I think that recognizing that mobile online games provide a specific kind of return access, and they do create community. Marvel Alliance creates huge community, Marvel Contest of Champions creates huge communities through its alliance system.
Which anybody who wants to join this too hottie alliance,
please do it.
Too hottie alliance.
We need your bodies to
do an alliance war. Just
do alliance
sacrifice your bodies to us.
Yeah, I mean, we don't care how you enjoy it. We just need people to show up and get through the maps.
You also don't have to be good. We're not here to play like we.
Nico's good. He'll take care of everything. I back him up 20%. You could contribute 2 and we'd be happy. It'd knock us. It's true. I did that one Cosmic Groot in the Alliance Quest map this week, and I was like, yeah, I can't do any more of this.
And I love those bosses when they've got you got to break through their shield first. Oh man, I love when the bosses and then because some of these are daily or some of them are every 8 days. You can play it 5 times, stuff like that. And
again, this is a lot of the strategy stuff. How are you going to? Are you just gonna come in and play a few games and log off? Totally fine.
Totally cool.
Do you want the resources to level? Okay, you've got to show up on the start of an alliance quest. You've got to complete the entire map for 5 days. You get a 2-day break in which you need to Nico and I just did a new one and a new strategy. And in the middle of it, we were thinking we'd start playing things a certain way. When it all ended, I said to him, we should do it this way. But now we kind of have a whole strategy, and it it wasn't hard to come up with, but it did take time. It did take investment where, even a game even a Mortal Kombat, you can just log in and play a few rounds. There's obviously more to how you progress through the game, but there's a lot of fighters that it's just your progression can happen in a casual sense. It is pretty difficult to progress through Contest of Champions past a certain point casually, particularly if you want to do it in any kind of noticeable time frame.
And if you want to have a reputable, recognizable team.
Yeah,
that's a little bit the hard part. If you don't care who you play as, if you're wow, I'm the Vox, the bad guy from Death of the Inhumans who's appeared 4 times. Oh, wow, I'm Massacre, that random Deadpool-looking motherfucker. If you don't care who you play as, let me tell you there's 2-star crystals for you. But if you're no, look, I'm a huge, huge mutant fan, and there hasn't been a really strong X-Men video game since Next Dimension, and I'm looking for something to fill that X-Men RPG hole in my heart. I really want to collect mutants. There's special days where if you cash in your crystals, they will give you a guaranteed mutant or champion. So there's ways to do it where you can guarantee closer to the roster you're looking for. But I will tell you guys right now, I spent 4 years building my platinum pool, and I only finished him a couple of weeks ago. I sent Kevo an image of it. I don't know if he has it, but
I do.
If you would not mind showing my beautiful baby boy, my 5-star platinum pool, whom I love so much. I worked on him forever, man. You have to collect pieces.
And this is the game will just get randomly easier sometimes because I now am just missing one piece.
Yeah, they just started giving out pieces. So the first day they updated this, I got the piece I was missing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which he had to collect painstakingly over time. And that first day, I got all but 2 pieces, got the second to last one within a week, and now I think I'm just missing his head or his right arm, but I'm just missing one piece. It's the one piece.
It's One Piece?
It's one piece.
This one guy.
This one guy is going to find all the treasures? So I don't know. As long as you don't care who you play as, you're going to have a good time. But if you need specific people, it might be a little bit more work. One of the things that's really funny about Contest of Champions that I'm just going to use to kind of like, I'm changing around our order just slightly.
No.
If we're going to mention random characters, I just want to mention that there was a game for a hot minute called Realm of Champions. And Realm of Champions was a Marvel Contest of Champions spinoff where the summoners were tasked by the Watcher to solve the conspiracy of who killed the Maestro. And what's really interesting about this game is that every single thing in this game was a fusion. Everything was some advanced version or evolved version of a character. And what it led to was, unfortunately, not quite the same success that they'd seen over on Contest of Champions. And that led to, unfortunately, some of this game just being gone forever. Now, Kevo, you actually have a pin that matches this game. You do. That weird Iron Man pin you have. That's actually a thing from the House of Iron, which was...
Yes.
Yeah, that's from this game. And it was a thing they really thought was going to happen. And it just didn't wind up working out. But these are actually 2 of the characters that were created for Realm of Champions. This is Sorcerer Supreme Storm. And then there is also...
Oh, it's that who that is?
Yeah.
They don't say Storm anywhere. It just says Sorcerer Supreme.
And then there's also Storm Pyramid X.
Yes, who I do have, and she bangs.
Working.
Oh,
it's not loading. The preview image.
Imagine Storm with Apocalypse vibes. It's not.
Yeah.
No, I got it. It's just it took a second.
It's from a world that's what if Storm was Apocalypse.
Yeah.
There's a couple of other characters, Silver Centurion and Jabari Panther, who is like an actual half Panther, Black Panther, terrifying as hell. There's also a rare boss you can only fight once in a while named Black Widow Scythia. She's a rare event only boss. I think she's only been play againstable 3 times. She's still not gettable. But anybody who ever gets worried about that, guys, I sat in like sexual frustration waiting for Weapon X Wolverine to become available, and he was an opponent for 4 years before he became playable. To this day, all of the files for Jessica Jones are loaded in the system because she's part of a back issue quest. And you can't play as Jessica Jones. And that back issue quest has been available since the pandemic. So, like, there are canceled characters. There are characters that are embedded in the game. There's also characters that you can't get to anymore, which is, like, fine. There's, like, Ice variant Jean, which is just like, what if Jean and Iceman were fused? And I'm not making fun of them. I'm kind of making fun of the culture that demands that we create games where that's the case. Where, like, it's Jean, but her fire is blue. That's it. And, like, so that's not available anymore. But for the most part, Realm of Champions was just, unfortunately, a huge bomb. I really am disappointed. The play style wasn't fun, and it's one of those things where when it all finished, and they announced the game was shutting down within a year, I had forgotten it had only been around for a year. They never opened 2/3 of the maps. It bombed really fast, but Kevo has one of the pieces of merchandise from it. I have one of the others. There's only 3 we don't have. And Realm of Champions just really wasn't the hit they'd hoped. And then they had Snap, so nobody had to cry about it. But this game only lasted 1 year, and we got 4 regular champions out of it. Again, that's Sorcerer Supreme, Pyramid X, both storms. And then we also got Jabari Panther and Silver Centurion, as well as the unplayable Black Widow Scythia character.
Scythia, right? It's
Scythia, that's it.
Scythia.
Skytalis.
I mean Scythia, but what is
it's
it?
Skytalis. I'm sending it. I'm
Oh,
sending it
okay.
in now. It's a really like Borgish looking version of
Already doing
Black
something.
Widow. You're already doing something.
Yeah.
You got it, handsome.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
But yeah, I'm sad that I played this game twice and then hated it. I really just didn't want to. He found it. Yeah, that's
No idea where it
merchandise
was.
from this game. So
It's the real badge in my little hand.
it was sort of like, what if Secret Wars was like a game? What if all of these worlds became battle realms and you played through them? Kevo, it looks awesome. Thank you so much for finding that.
I love it. I knew exactly where it was. Now to get your thing up.
And so this is actually, TK, I don't know if you've ever even seen this. This is Black Widow Scytalis. I look up the actual name of it. And this is only available as a special boss battle. And it's when she's even available, right? And so Realm of Champions is just such a forgotten moment in the history of Contest of Champions. Yeah, there she is.
I've seen that before, but no, not often.
So, I think about how hard this game works to create exciting events. They even do this thing where, like, did you accumulate a bunch of weird, random garbage money throughout the game throughout the year? Because every month we do a special thing with special money. Do you have a bunch of stupid garbage money at the end of the year? Trade them in for real credits. And so, like, they even help you try and, like, buy back the excitement of the game when it's kind of taken from you by the inherent gotcha machine of what Marvel Contest of Champions has to be successful.
And that's another really big thing. This is a gotcha game in a lot of ways. This is a game with a ton of in-app purchases. It is very impressive how generous free play is. I did not buy for a very long time, did not buy a single thing, and was really happy with my gameplay. I bought the monthly pass once for like a very specific reason, and because I was playing enough that I wanted to give them some money. And now I do that, and every once in a while I'll buy their like 2-track kind of more battle passy thing. And I really do not do this to get ahead in the game. I do this almost entirely to give them money, and to shave off a little bit of like wait time. Cause that the thing that, some of the paid access does is mean that you have a little bit less wait time, and a little bit less like wait time around like accumulating things. But for the most part, like, you can really get deep into this game for free, and I did for over a year. I really did want to give them some money because they made a great game.
And I love like actually paying into the game a little bit. I don't want to be that guy, but I do enjoy giving them I think it's the $10, it's $9.99 a month for the Sorcerer Pass, the Summoner Sigil. That's what it is. That's the restore your energy faster, get a couple of bonus things every month. And then I also pay for, like you said, TK, I pay for the platinum track. So I think I drop, I think it's $15 a month into this game. It might be 20. I don't do a lot of gaming. I don't do a lot of gambling. I don't do a lot of betting. I'm a very simple man. If I'm going to drink, I'm going to drink at home because that's $20 for the night instead of $120. I don't want to play a game where I got to drop $60 a month. That's just not my shit. I don't want to have to buy my success. I enjoy that with Contest of Champions, you can just sort of up your game. You can just sort of up your experience. Even then, I don't know. It's just sort of pretty minimal. I find myself frustrated at things I can't get. And that is something I do just want to address for a moment. In-game frustration is real, especially when you find yourself at the end of a map. This isn't a game that is here to like rub your back and tell you that you're a good person. I know I said that during the pandemic, this was like a refuge for me. But at the end of the day, it's a business, right? Like,
Right, exactly.
This is a business, and they're trying to make money. And like any good Mona Lisa Saperstein, money, please.
But I would argue that, like, when you say they're not here to rub your back, rubbing your back gets you more money. They are here to make the great game that they intend to make, that they want the people who want to play that game to pay for. And that is a very different thing than making the least offensive, most accessible game possible that, Candy Crush people will dump money into.
And I do want to say, like, a top that knows how to do a good reach around, one of the things that this game does that I really appreciate is when they mess up, even if it's not really their fault, they just give away we're sorries.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Every time we see...
It's like dumb, says half of the time I'm not even using the thing that they screwed up.
Chief of YT Gaming says they can't have my monies.
Yeah, totally fair.
LOL, like JK on Christmas and summertime. They do special things at Christmas through Valentine's. It's actually like it's a holiday thing, and they just introduced a stupid Halloween thing that I spent money on. But they
he's a spooky boy.
I'm a spooky boy. I can't help it, right?
It's the season.
My dick in a jack-o'-lantern, right? So I think the big thing that I just want to say about Marvel Contest of Champions, I can't say without bringing on one of my favorite summoners, the snappiest boy I know, and just absolutely the handsome light of my life, right? Let's bring in the Scruff Monkey. If he's ready, give me a thumbs up, Scruff Monkey. All right, I'm bringing him in. Terrific.
Oh, you got him? I got him.
Oh, you got him. So everybody, summoner, snappist. I don't know what are snap players called. Player.
Losers.
Oh, groundbreaking. So my summoner loser boy. Tell me, where can everybody find you? What's your name? Who are you? Why are you here?
Hi, my name is Jonah, and you can follow me at any social at Peak Jonah. You can see from the very nice banner that Kevo made below. You can find me on all socials like that, and I'm here.
Wait, Jonah, how do you spell peak?
Well, it's Peaktk.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Nice.
AKTK.
Wrap it around.
And I am, I guess, the resident Marvel Snap player expert person. I don't know. I just kind of play a lot of Marvel Snap.
All right.
Certainly more than me.
Talk to me about your MCoC play style. TK and I put it all on the table. We're damage boys. We're damage over time guys. We love us a good status effect. We're blue-green mages. We're here to fuck your genetic code to pieces. How about you? What's your MCoC play style? Are you somebody who's into defense, attack, or are you a status boy? Know your status.
Know your status. It's important. You equals you. But less about that, more about the actual status of Marvel's Contest of Champions. I am wishy-washy in the sense of... Truly, Vada. And wishy-washy in the sense of, I just use whoever's the best character I currently have. So whoever has the most power is the best.
Get this clown off! Get this clown out of here!
My favorite character...
Jonah, I'm like 20 minutes past that strategy, so I really do not
believe Double clowns!
Listen, well, I guess we're in clown school then, and that makes you
Sideshow Bob
professor.
And Sideshow Stessel over here. It's hard to say.
No, Mel. I'm Sideshow Mel.
Oh.
Or I guess I'd be Bob. She'd be Mel.
I'm Sideshow Cecil.
My favorite character.
Sideshow Collectibles.
Anyway.
My favorite character that I have in Marvel Contest of Champions. I have a 5-star Hercules, and Hercules is very, very, very good. It's all about power, all about completing your feats to carry over that power later, and it's just a bunch of bulging muscles, and he does a lot of damage, so maybe attack.
All right. Well, Isht. We have one of the this is just like a great day for non-stop appearances from some of my favorite voices in the history of X's for Podcast. There's
Robbie.
there's no bad X voices for X's for podcast except one. And you know who you are. I'm kidding.
It's
there's-
you.
So the thing I want to
It's
say
not you. You're great.
is when you're talking about things like games like Marvel Contest of Champions and Marvel Snap, the thing you're really talking about is the opportunity to be the hero you want to be, to build a roster, to build a deck, to have an identity within this universe. It's why we buy the books. It's why we listen to the audio dramas. One of the things that I think that we can say that Marvel Snap and Marvel Contest of Champions are part of a generation of games that allow us to do is they allow us to shed the identity of the choose your own adventure game, and they allow us to step directly into the adventure. While there might not be as much choice per se, there's more options, which is sort of a different barometer. The thing I come to these games the most excited about is the opportunity to live out my dream. I was a lonely, scared kid, and these comics made me feel strong until I was strong. And now I get to be strong and still play out that sort of fantasy in a way that reminds me that these fantasies are part of our world, whether it's through an app or it's through sort of like the realization of interpreting these tropes into our lives. And the first thing I want to ask is, when you guys play your game, when you pick up your phone, Jonah, why do you pick up Snap over Marvel Contest of Champions? And TK, why is it that you've only kind of like toed Snap? For me, just to start, I can tell you I do not love the competitive play of Snap because I live a very busy kind of media boy life. And at any given moment, I have to put down my phone for 25 fucking minutes at a time. And if it's in the middle of a Snap match, that's not going to work. But with Contest of Champions, I can almost always just hit pause, put the game down for an hour, and be fine. So
Alliance Quest fights.
Except Alliance Quest fights. That's the one big difference for me. I never know when I'm going to need to edit a show, take care of a situation at like my day job, or, there might just be a bowl in desperate need of smoking. So what is it that I know Kevo loved that. What is it that pushes the two of you to the games that it pushes you to when essentially we come to the table for the same meal?
After you, kid.
Oh, well, thank you. For me, I really enjoy one of the really great things about Marvel Snap is if you are playing ranked, the matches are very fast. There are only 6 turns in any given match, and it is really easy to play. If you're like, oh, I got half an hour to kill, nothing to do, you can run through a couple of matches and, you'll get through a few of them. Unlike other mobile or online card games, those matches can take anywhere from 5-10 minutes, sometimes even 20 minutes of it's all wait time, the amount of time you're playing a match, having to wait for your opponent to go.
Why I couldn't keep up with MTG online during the pandemic. Just, oh my God, I don't have 75 minutes any given time.
And it's one of the most fascinating things about the Marvel Snap format as their card game, and they specifically chose these much shorter matches for you to get in and get out as you want. And that's part of why I really enjoy it is, if I really want to kind of slog through a couple of matches, I can do the game mode called Conquest. And that's where, you can try to have to win multiple times in a row. And that makes and if I'm like, okay, I can dedicate the time to it, I could do that. But if I'm just like, nah, I just want to play a few couple of games, I don't want to like actually play it and do anything here, you just go into ranked.
And I think that's one of the things that really helps me to understand when I hear somebody who knows a game well explain to me, oh no, this is the strategy. It's so interesting because TK, when you came to me with ideas about MCoC, and you'd be like, no, Nico, I understand what you're saying. We need to try the next Alliance Quest. Just shut up and do it, right? It was always really important because I get a little nervous, and having someone who doesn't know the game push you can be just as helpful as having someone who knows the game extremely well, like Jonah's relationship with Snap. Help me understand. Like, I'm like, oh, you know what? I never thought about the 2 different styles of play, the 2 different game modes, as so directly affecting my amount of time involvement. But speaking of cute things, right? Anybody who isn't aware, Robbie is actually adorable, like a human bunny. Like if a bunny was a backup dancer in a Lady Gaga video. Robbie. And
his comment posted here is cute characters is what I look for in a phone game, which is something that I really respect. Like aesthetically pleasing, eye-catching, soothing. These are things that a lot of people look for in their mobile games. It's a lot of what I look for in mine. I just want to pass the time quickly for a few minutes and not stress the F out. My darling, I love you, but watching you play your games sometimes, I am your mother watching your father watch football. It's
Are
super
you saying that
stressful.
Greek men have an annoying relationship with competition?
No.
There are some
Am I
ways that I
saying
am like,
Irishmen have a history of avoidance? Definitely not. Let's talk about
That's not
something
what I
else.
said, but that's how you interpret it as. Maybe that's what should have been said.
there are times that
There's our little Italian.
my dad very much comes off like a guy whose name was, Nihos Vasiliadaskas. Like that it definitely comes across that had been our familial name. But speaking of familial relationships, TK, member, I was about to walk away. TK, member of my family, man, I love so much.
Wow.
What is it you love so much that makes one of these games family to you? You really don't spend your time doing things a little. When you jump into something, you connect with it. You're somebody
Word.
who understands the heart of an experience and says, I want to engage with what makes this subject matter itself. And that's something that I really was drawn to about how you pushed me to play MCoC more aggressively. You're right. I've been playing since the second anniversary and have the icons to prove it, and I don't have the experience or the progress to prove it. When Jonah first started playing, it pushed me. When you first started playing, it pushed me. And I think one of the things I want to know is what allows you, as a person who needs that soul of a game, as a person who engages with like the endlessness of a Brandon Sanderson universe, that's what draws you to fiction. How was it that MCoC edged out Snap when you're admittedly a card man?
So you hit the nail on the head early. It is that it's easier to walk away. If I'm being really honest, I would rather be better at and progressing at Snap.
Get this clown out of
I know,
here!
kick me
All
out.
the
You
clowns!
should. All the clowns. I got a car. Fit 20 of us in there.
Big floppy shoes.
There,
Where you hide all of your love of Snap.
So it's two things. It is much easier to put Contest of Champions down in moments where that needs to happen. There's literally probably going to be a moment where I have to run off screen for a second. That's just my job. I also don't like being bad at things in a ranked capacity.
It's that thing I said. Why am I only good at the things that I do? It's not because I'm great at everything. It's because I only publicly do things I'm good at.
Yep.
You do it.
There are especially with digital games and digital card games, there is a level to which I know that I'm not going to make it past a certain point. And there's not really I just wasn't seeing even a capacity for lower play leagues for me in Snap. There are, a game like Splatoon, I can see how to put together a league specifically for older queer dudes who just are never going to be high ranked. And with Snap, we're all just kind of in one pool, and the Jonahs are up here and the TKs are down there, and never the twain shall meet, but we're all still stuck in this giant warehouse together. And I don't like that. So
if I can just interact with one thing.
Interact with any of it, all of it. Do the thing.
You are particularly bad at any part of what you're doing. It's that Snap requires a very specific mindset to adapt to the competitive methodology. That's something that I've noticed. It's not that Snap is unplayably hard. Something that I really appreciate is that Jonah is the sweetest about when I just sort of crawl over his shoulder like a magical creature and watch him play. It's really great to see how he thinks, because there are times the moves he makes, and Jonah, I mean this complimentary, the moves you make, I can see are the same elementary style moves I might make because it's just the nature of what the card does. So I only want to say that it's not necessarily that you're bad, but that it's a certain adaptive gameplay style that's required to understand how to play competitively in Snap.
Yeah, it very well might be that. At the end of the day, what happens is that I don't like where I am in the game, and so I don't return to it. And now at this point, like, that happened. It also happened that it like came around at a busy time. I wasn't really able to dedicate enough to it. Then they started doing, you could finally play against other people more clearly. And I was like, I'm just a little too busy. And I feel like if I try and get back into this, I'm just going to be left in the dirt. And then the time had just passed and I just kind of never really returned to it with the same ferocity that I felt on like the opening days.
I have a very similar relationship with sorry. It is like the worst allergy season I have had in a September.
Yes,
Yeah,
everyone's
big time.
getting sick.
Big time.
Seriously. Ugh. Right? How can you convince me that allergies were created to protect us from pollen? So, anyway, one of the things that I do feel about Snap, oh, look at him dabbing over there. One of the things that I do feel about Snap is, I kind of feel disadvantaged. I sort of feel like I'll never catch up. And that's something that, like, it's so funny. And this is so dumb. And I know that it's not even really a comparable thing. But when I was a kid and my dad was like, I'm going to give you a couple of Marvel comics, but I need you to read them really gingerly and really carefully. Mm-hmm. Right? I grew up mentally being like, oh my God, it's 1994 and I'm trying to read 30 years of Daredevil? That'll never happen. And now it's 2023 and Daredevil's been around since 1964. And I'm not at all upset that I'm 37 because at 37, I'm feeling kind of like, oh, wow, this is a great time to be 37. A couple of years ago, 37 meant you're a grandfather, go good, ready to die. But now 37 means you have an opportunity to be gorgeous in your 40s. But what it does mean is, because I only want to stress that, like, it's not about the passage of time for me. It's about recognizing that when I started Daredevil, there was 30 years of canon to try and absorb. And in that time, there has been 30 years more. I may have felt like a noob, but the honest truth is so many people who were into Daredevil before me just aren't anymore by virtue of they've left the fandom or they've left us. And with that in mind, as a guy who felt like 30 years in, I'm never going to catch up to these people who've been reading Daredevil since 1987. Now I've been reading Daredevil near monthly since 1994. And that's something I can like brag about, that when I was 8 years old, my dad started buying me Daredevil. I have, my first prints of the David Mack issues, getting them once every 6 months when they would come out. So I only made to interact with, actually, I think Snap sort of upholds the long-standing tradition of comics having this long, endless bounty of fiction and prose and, obvious comic. But in the case of Snap, it's not just the game and the cards. You're missing out on variants. You're missing out on the different special things that have happened. Jonah, I know you've been ranked. I just want to brag about you because you're not just, you're not just my guy, but you've been ranked Infinite how many times?
About a billion.
Can you explain what Infinite is while you look up how many times you have been ranked Magnum Man?
Yes. Give me a second. So in Marvel Snap, when you play ranked, the highest rank you can reach is Infinite. And I have reached Infinite since the season where MCoC was the season pass. Before that, in the Zabu and Silver Surfer seasons, which are the two that came right before it, I was ranked 90. And then before that, I think I was ranked 80 and then 70. So I slowly made my way up, and every season that I've hit Infinite, it gets really easy to hit Infinite once you do it the first time. But that total, if you give me 1 second, and if you need any more reasons to brag about me, I hit Infinite in 2 days this season. The season started last week on a Tuesday. I was Infinite on Thursday.
So-
I
One,
think you're really cool.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Where are we
8
counting?
times infinite.
And how many infinites? There's been one a month, right?
Yes,
So
since
there's-
the start.
So there's been 11. So you've only missed 3 infinite rankings. It started October 2022, I checked.
So I've missed 3.
That is absolutely amazing. You know, one of the things that I'm the most fascinated about Marvel Snap is its ability to capture the imaginations of people the way it did. I think what many of us feel as comic collectors is, gosh darn it, I would love to buy all of the variants and support every LCS that I could. But the reality is, it's just not a financially viable situation to try and support the LCSs that you love by buying every variant cover, because, as again, we will always say on this show, it is no one's responsibility to personally support the entire comic book market on their back. I do think, as somebody who said earlier, I spend $15 a month on MCoC. Yeah, I do. I only spend $15 a month. There was a time during the pandemic, probably especially, when they would be like, crystal pack. And I would be like, oh, these guys are nice to me. I'm going to buy all the crystal packs. And like, you know, I would invest a little bit. But I think Snap makes the idea
Crystal
of
queen.
investing in, I am a crystal queen. I'm Crystal Waters, which when I was like 14 and my mother was like, babe, you don't think that's actually her name legally, like on her birth certificate. You don't think she was born to like sparkling and flat waters, right?
That's not so insane a name.
She doesn't know.
Oh,
Jade
Kevo,
Child.
what an incredible image that you picked.
Damn.
One of the things that I really love about that image is that it explores exactly what I'm talking about, the nature of variant in the idea of Snap. My biggest problem with continuing to buy variant covers, I got nowhere to fucking put them, man. I love every piece of art, but in the last 6 months, my walls have become a lot more Tori Amos records than it's become comic book art. And that's just by virtue of where my heart is not comic books right now. Every credit to Aaron Cooter and Jerry Duggan for their beautiful work on Daredevil and X-Men, but I don't know. You can keep your hashtags. I like hash browns. That's just Jay talking. I really miss,
Jesus
the Mark
Christ.
Wade.
That's how Jay sees it.
Thank you, Kevin. I miss the Mark Wade run.
No, you said it right. I'm an a-hole.
I miss Mark Wade. I miss Grant Morrison. I don't not love what's coming out now, but it might not be the work for me. One thing that variants offer you is an opportunity to engage with a card the way you love. Jonah, this is where you have a little bit more knowledge than me. If you love a card and like you particularly like, Nebula's effect, talk to me about using variants. Are there more than one variant for a card? Can you easily cycle between them?
Yes, yes to cycling between them. That depends on the card. Certain cards, like Sunspot, only had, if you did not buy the initial bundle that came out with his variant, only has one other variant in the game outside of the most recent Twitch drop that gave him one. So if you were like, damn, Sunspot's my favorite character and I love using this card, I want a sick variant for it, and you missed that initial bundle, and you for some reason don't want the Twitch one, which I don't know why you wouldn't want that. It's a free variant. You're like, oh, you're SOL. You only have one option, and you're stuck waiting till it either shows up in the shop or that you get lucky and you open it up because it just happens to only be 700 gold. When it comes to variants in Marvel Snap, and this is baseline talking of like ones you can buy, there are 2 levels. There's rare and then super rare. Rare variants are 700 gold, which is a type of currency in Marvel Snap. And you can buy that either in the shop, or if you ever get a free mystery variant that's not a premium mystery variant, you get you can have a chance of getting any variant worth 700 gold. So, super rare variants are 1200 gold and are only openable by buying them from the shop or through the premium mystery variant, which is a new thing that they just added that gives you a chance to open a 1200 gold variant. You're not guaranteed to open one.
I think it's also worth pointing out that the strategy when Snap was being developed was clearly that these would be
NFTs.
much closer to NFTs, and they very wisely realize that we all fucking despise NFTs as they currently are. Nobody should hate the concept of NFTs. It's a technology. Somebody will figure out a way to use it that is brilliant. All it is a token. There's a billion things we can do with tokens that are not fucking garbage.
And I want to ask a question. And like, Jonah,
What?
you can just look me right in the eyes and be like, big, strong man? No. But here's my question. NFTs or not, Jonah, by virtue of Snaps, do you contribute to Snaps' financial well-being?
Well, yes,
Oh, he's just ready to say it. He doesn't even need
Yeah.
to
Good for
snap.
you.
Got it. Good for you.
buy the season pass because it is. If you are somebody who's like, I only have this amount of disposable income, and you really love Marvel Snap, and you're like, damn, I want to put money into it, but putting direct money is not a good idea. You don't get the best value. Just buy the pass for the season. If you literally just play every day to complete the missions, you don't try to grind levels, you don't try to grind for literally anything, you will not only complete the pass, you will get more than $10 worth of currency out of it. It is literally the best bang for your buck that you can get.
That is how I genuinely feel about the Summoner's Pass, the Summoner's Sigil over on MCoC. Just the fact that you regenerate health 1 minute faster alone. 1 minute faster. Guys, that is literally in an hour. You're going to get 2 more lives every hour for $10. That's the math, baby.
And
baby.
Yeah,
but
baby.
some bundles, not a lot, very few that I've actually purchased with money. There have been a handful. There's been one $5 bundle and the initial bundle that you can buy. That's like $3. Yeah, there's a lot of math. But outside of that, I really don't buy the currency bundles because it's a lot of money to put into a singular game for cosmetics. However, I do want to make this point because I see a lot of fanfare of complaints about the pricing in Marvel Snap bundles, and they're like, this is atrocious for a mobile game. And the truth of the answer is these bundles are not for you. Bundles that are priced extremely high that have a singular or 2 cosmetics that give you a lot of resources are for people in the mobile gaming industry that we call whales. They are people who have large amounts of disposable income, whether because they are rich or their only financial venture is they only put money into that particular game that literally keep the game afloat. It's for them. It's for them.
Did you hear that? Snap is just for the rich Brendan Frasers.
No. Not Snap.
I was joking
bundles.
about whales. I was just joking about whales and The Whale. Brendan Fraser just won his Oscar.
I got
for
you.
Darren Aronofsky's, I don't know, tribute to slightly plus size people playing larger.
But it wasn't Tusk. Anyway.
Tusk.
Bum, bum, bum.
Tusk.
Fleetwood Mac references are literally always acceptable on this show.
Yay.
It's one of those things where we can say what we want about it being, not the best for the industry, or, this bundle is 60. They're upcoming. There is a Peach Momoko bundle for the Peach Momoko She-Hulk, which is going to be $64. And the truth of the matter is, that's literally for people who have that money and for whales. It is not for the everyday people who spend a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. You want to buy it. Part of it, the tactic is FOMO, to make you be like, damn, I'm missing out if I don't put this money into it.
Right.
But you don't have to. Marvel Snap is a completely 100% no money back guarantee, free to play game. You do not have to put any money into Marvel Snap if you do not want to. However, you have to understand you will not get the cards that you want on your timetable then, or earlier than what you would want. If you want to play Marvel Snap and you don't want to put money into it, you're in it for the long haul, and you have to be wise about how you spend your resources. And that's just true of any mobile game you play.
We were saying that about MCoC earlier. I know that you're a very busy man, and you were probably in an internationally ranked Snap tournament just before coming on. You probably walked right off the deck line.
No.
But just say yes.
Yes.
So
Yes, and
Yes, and you missed our brilliant discussion of Marvel Contest of Champions, where one of the things I said was if you don't care who you play as, you can have yourself a beautiful team early on. But if you're somebody who's like, look, I'm here for the fact that I can build a team of Runaways, I can build a team of Young Avengers, it takes a little bit more time. Now, I will admit, when I play these games, I play them for aesthetics in a lot of ways. I choose to use some characters because I love them more than others. There's absolutely no benefit to using, let's say, my Elektra over Kraven, when Kraven does have just as amazing a special as Elektra, though I do really appreciate that bleed effect. How do you feel as a competitive player? I mean, you're just legitimately a competitive player. There's no other way to phrase it. When it comes to I know you have love characters. You're an Elsa Blood boy. You're a Cosmo dog, right? Then TK, then my question for you becomes, is the fact that you need to think about, I can't use the characters I want to use. I got to use the smartest cards. How does that, dichotomy, strategy versus character, affect two different kinds of players, a competitive player and a guy who's like, I would be competitive, but fuck this teenage nonsense.
For me, it just becomes a matter of exactly what Jonah said. I just always have to know my limitations. And sometimes, the fact of the matter is your limitation sometimes is just time. It is sometimes just that it would take weeks or months to get where you want to be in the game, and that the other option is to pay for it. And sometimes that feels like something you want to do, and sometimes it doesn't. If you want to build the full Lorcana set from the first print or from the first chapter, you can either just keep buying packs or start really strategically planning out how you purchase the last of the cards you need, which just might take time. What?
Longtime friend of the show, the unbelievable Chongo, who is a brilliant artist. Please check out his Redbubble store. If you want to find him, you can check him out on Twitter, because I will not call it the stupid name it now has, at Chengo ATX. What a brilliant artist. He was just posting about how he and his partner, former X's First Show contributor Rod, are building their Lorcana decks. And the hardest thing for them is that they kind of don't have a community to build Lorcana decks with.
Yeah.
But they're so taken by the art. They're so taken by the opportunity to engage with a deck.
Yep.
That's the physical version of word for word what you're trying to talk about right now.
Yeah, you might just be, if you're not going to go all out and buy 2 boxes of booster packs, which is still not going to get you every card, you might just be waiting for months. And on top of that, you might not have the cards you want for a deck strategy that you want. So you might just be playing, trying to get there. With digital games where there is a progression that, you can win and maybe make some of that progress, you are sort of calculating things a little bit differently. But at the end of the day, it is always just, what are your advantages and what are your disadvantages? For me, being a very low level player who might choose not to spend money, I just accept that I'm working with what I got. And there might be a time at which I'm like, I have a bit of a foothold in this. I might be able to, get to the next level of gameplay and be able to access more in-game resources if I put $10 down. In many cases, I'll do that. In other cases, I just must maintain my blissful financial free existence and never put anything to it. I'm one who usually spends the money not so much because of that, progression aspect, although that is always a factor, but because I think people should be paid for good work.
Hashtag SAG AFTRA strike.
And
you said SAG.
I'm brave.
And a lot of times I think that I would rather be giving them money directly than contributing to a culture of just constant, just advertise at me until I die, and that pays for what I'm getting here. Anyway, that was a long-winded explanation. Jonah,
can I add on to something?
I'm going to let you add on to that in 1 second. I just want to enhance TK's point and then hand the microphone over to you.
Yeah.
Kevo has an image ready.
Yeah.
I spent money to buy all of these records. As I said earlier,
That's what you were doing.
Yeah.
Weirdo.
As I said earlier this episode, I have replaced so much of my comic book art with Tori Amos, memorabilia on my walls, whether it's the unbelievably expensive necklaces that are so hard to track down on eBay that it makes my entire body hurt.
Oh my God. Remember how we almost got that $80 charm necklace? I feel like we should have done it.
I'm actually going to. It's still available on the website. It's going to be my Christmas gift to myself. I've made the decision. So, but like that, those Scarlet Walk records, the 2 red records that are sort of framed in the middle of all of this, right? You can actually see that I filmed this live. You can see that I took a picture of me literally being on air. Those red records sold out in like 25 minutes. Scarlet's Walk is such a moment in Tori Amos's history. And like, you don't have to know who Tori Amos is. When I say the following sentence, her re-release of a previously never put online EP from 2003 hit number 40 most downloaded international album on all of iTunes this year. This week, in 2 days, right? So when I say that Tori Amos is a really unique thing in pop culture, but you know what, guys? I'm not kidding. Those records are variants. You can actually get them in black, like normal records, right now. But I'm part of a community that so completely embraces, you can actually see on the wall, I have pink under the pinks. I have orange EPs. I have ocean blue, ocean to oceans. And now I have scarlet red, Scarlet's Walks. That is actually because Tori Amos, as a sort of identity, is so unbelievably connected to comic books that Tori Amos is in many ways the basis, although not the inspiration, for Delirium by Neil Gaiman in the pages of Sandman. You cannot understand how the identity of things like variants and things like the opportunity to change the simple aesthetic of something bleed into your every world. But whether it's a mobile game or records, there is so much about the simple way aesthetics change how you interact with something that it can make or break it. Jonah, thank you so much for giving me that opportunity to monologue about how much I love my incredible, completely sold out, hard to get, unbelievably selling for way too much money on eBay right now. Don't even look, it'll make you sad. Scarlet Walk Records. Thank you.
Oh, of course. I didn't need to hear you nerd out.
Kevo, would you put him in spotlight since he was just so patient?
Oh, you didn't have to do all that. To talk about this specific point of Rod and Trongo having a problem of not always knowing, of having this interest in a card game but really not having anybody else to play with, if you can, go to your local game shop. You can ask if they're running any tournaments, if they have any game nights, or even ask like, hey, we're interested. Would this be something you'd be mind hosting if we try to, get the word out ourselves?
They'll give you 1 day a month.
You sometimes even one night a week if you really, if there's enough interest. That's how, if you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic the Gathering or Warhammer 40K, or if you want to do like a pickup D&D game, go to your local game shop, see what they have, see what's available, because you never know. You might be buying your pack and someone else might be buying theirs and be like, hey, do you want to play together? It's one of those things where I definitely empathize, especially with certain games. I used to play a card game called Card Fight Vanguard, which was an anime that got turned into a card game. I don't know if that's specifically true, but I'm pretty sure it was true. I feel like the anime came first. But I didn't have anybody to play with, and it did not really do successfully here in the States, and it was a little niche, and it was one of those things where I had bought a couple of booster packs, and I had a lot of cards, and I had a semi-complete deck, and I didn't really have anybody to play with, so I used to just play by myself. I used to just play against myself, which is sad. But that also brings me to my other point. I kind of had two decks that you can say were complete. We're not competitive decks, and comparative to other kind of card games, Marvel Snap, you are guaranteed to eventually get every single card if you time everything properly and you actually play the game. For other card games, that's not true unless you want to shell out a lot of money or you want to spend a much larger time grinding to make one card that you will need for your competitive deck. TK, you talked about how opening your Larcana packs, you're not guaranteed to get every single card. You can buy 100 packs. You might be missing 1 or 2 cards. or you're
You'll
spending the money.
absolutely be missing some of the rare enchanted cards. Like there's
I don't know if people really realize when it comes to card games the amount of money they want you to sink into it. I saw somebody talking about how their Magic the Gathering deck, the total amount of the deck costs $5,000. $5,000 to have every single card that you need for that deck. You look at Yu-Gi-Oh decks and how much money those cards cost based off of how popular is this card, how useful is this card, how long has it been out of print, did it have a recent reprinting that you can get for it cheaper. If you want to play a card game where you don't actually have to put money into it, as long as you don't mind, like, hey, I might go into some of it with a little bit weaker. And I will note, the way that Marvel Snap breaks things down is that there are 5 different series of cards. There's series 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 4 and 5, forget about for right now. When you first enter series, you will get every card that is in series 1 and series 2 by a certain level. After that, you will get every series 3 card, but you won't get them in the order that you want, and certain series 3 cards are a lot more powerful for opening up certain kinds of archetypes for certain kind of decks. So if you're somebody who did get very unfortunate with your series 3 starting, and you don't have like a lot of cards that mix well together, so you're stuck kind of playing a series 2 deck, it can be really frustrating playing against somebody who has all the cards they need for their series 3 deck for these different archetypes that you can't really play to their maximum potential yet. And that sucks. That I truly get, and it can be a slog and discouraging. But also understand, say if you're like, I'm going to pick up Magic right now. I want to build a blue deck. Well,
I'm going to go find myself a Black Lotus.
Well, let's see what the most popular blue deck is that I can be competitive with. Oh, it costs that amount of money. You can try your luck at opening packs, but good luck with that.
So, okay. Here's my big next question about the nature of Marvel Snap and kind of the generation of card games we're facing. There is no version of a card game I can remember from, I would say, like elementary school. I started playing Magic the Gathering in 5th grade, which is, Kevo, what's 5th grade?
96, 97.
I started playing Magic the Gathering before Jonah was born. God damn it.
Around the time he was born, yeah.
I remember.
I started playing it in 1993, like way before Jonah was born.
God, you're hot.
1993, you say?
Kevo, you're a king.
It just keeps coming back. It just keeps coming back.
So I remember going to Zap Comics when it was in Saraville, New Jersey, when it was where Rita's Italian Ice and Big Wally's is.
Love
and
Rita's.
Why'd you say Italian Ice like that?
Because that's how you say
here.
it when you're from New Jersey. I know it's Italian, but you say it as Rita's Italian Ice.
They're so self-censored. You have to pronounce the I in Italian.
Right? It's all about the me Italian, right? Even though I am me Cuban, I guess, and me Greek and me Irish. So, and a little bit of Czech boy.
And a little bit rock and roll.
A little bit country, a little bit rock and roll.
I walked in and I was
dyslexic.
like,
so sorry.
I am new to card game. No, you are also a little bit dyslexic. You're fine. So, I walk into Zap Comics and I go, "Hi, I have $20 bill. Please sell me Magic Gathering game. I am Boy Scout and Boy Scout play game." And they went, "Jesus Christ. Okay. Listen, the thing is $19.99 and there's tax, but we'll just give it to you for 20 cash." And I was like, "Is good deal?" I'm going to be honest with you. It actually was a great deal. It was one of like nearly every card in the set, plus a gameplay tray, plus a really deluxe booklet version of the rules, plus a prose novella, plus like it was really, I was so lucky that the guys at Zap Comics saw this scared kid who was 12 years old who was like, "Look, the guy I have a crush on is in my Boy Scout troop and his name is Rob and he plays Magic the Gathering and I just want him to think I'm cool. Please sell me good cards." And like this man who would go on to, I think at this point now owns the shop, and they have 3 locations. He continues to be a really nice man, is so nice to me. And definitely had that JR build, if you know what I'm talking about daddies, you know what I mean? And so anyway, I remember being like, there is one of each card. The idea of variant is not thing. There might be 2 editions of a card, but that whole story about just like, my entrance to MTG and sort of card games in general. Please, everybody, share your entrance to card games in general. Jonah, I know you've played a number of them over the years. There were no variants. Do you know what gave me back card games? Variants, dude. And meanwhile, variants drive me off of comics. So I wonder what that is. I guess when the cover is all there is, the idea of a variant cover doesn't bother me. But when the cover is meant to only represent the identity of what's inside, the idea of a variant irks me. I am more inclined to give Snap my dollars for a variant card than I am to give Marvel my dollars for a variant cover, unless it's Russell Dowderman drawing somebody half naked in chains. Anytime he wants to put a dude half naked in chains, I'm going to give him my money. Hey, Russell. So, TK, Jonah, your first competitive card game or collectible card game, whichever one you want. And what is it about sort of like the nature of variance that has given this, at least in your mind, if you have one, that has given this beautiful genre new life in a way that I think maybe the people who love MTG, they have different interests than somebody coming from the variant cover game?
So I was a young little lad, and I was just like many young little lads in elementary school. I collected Pokemon cards. I collected Yu-Gi-Oh cards. That's
so
what
I
we
want you
all
guys
did.
to imagine just a tiny otter walking around an elementary school full of otters holding a handful of Pokemon cards. Just very
This
excited.
is my collection, and I was holding it like a baby. So I used to, I would never, schoolyard, school game rules were, it's not the actual rules. Colloquially, how people played it was it's not actually how the game is played. So it wasn't really like, oh, I'm beating up all these kids. We had no idea what we were doing. We were just playing what was fun. When I was in 5th grade, I started playing Magic the Gathering. So I started playing.
Wait, did everybody play MTG?
Yeah.
All right,
No.
white blue. I played a white blue deck all the time.
I was not limited to one.
I was limited to 2. Binary bitch. How about you, Jonah?
I started with a black and blue deck that I transitioned to being just a blue deck, because blue was the most annoying to my friends, and I liked annoying them.
God. It just made everybody you played against so angry that you just kept restoring life. What is wrong with you that you just keep restoring life?
Well, that's part of the gimmick for white. No, blue is full of counter spells.
Oh, true.
My friends would be like, I know what you're about to do. I know you've left some of this mana untapped so you can do these things. And I'd be like, yeah, and what are you going to do about it? There's a card that we used to love saying. It's a black card that is an instant that lets you destroy another, permanent, called Doomblade. We go, Doomblade! It was very fun.
I would play Wrath of God in a very booming voice. Wrath of God. I remember when I opened a booster pack with Wrath of God, I called my friend Dan at like 8:15 at night to be like, I got Wrath of God. You're all fucked. Good night. And just hung up on him and went to school the next day.
I'll very quickly go over my favorite strategy. There's a card called Sleep that lets you tap all of your opponent's cards, meaning they can no longer use them, and they can't use them for the next turn. And I used to have ways to constantly cast that over and over again until you just deplete your opponent's life because they could not defend and they could not do anything. And it was just kind of freezing your opponent out, and it is frustrating, and it is annoying, and it is not fun to play against. But
and
anyway,
then you grew a beard, and you didn't need to play that card anymore.
Yeah, I got hot, so I didn't need to play these card games anymore. So then after that, my card game journey, I tried Hearthstone for a little bit, and
It's not for me.
Hearthstone, being a digital game, whatever you want to say about it, it is. When I started playing way back when it was early and first came out, was not very free to play friendly. It is much more free to play friendly now, or even now, just getting started. If you do want to put a little bit of money into it, it is much easier to get into it and have a deck that's kind of comparative to when I first started playing.
It's impossible to do free to play, but if you could get pretty good at $5 or $10, they're just hoping everybody will throw in 5 or 10 from that like kind of lower rank, and their big guys will dole out.
As I talked about, the whales that keep the game afloat, that will just pump money into a game. And I promise you, no matter the mobile game, no matter how dumb it is, no matter how stupid it is, there will people who will sink thousands upon thousands of dollars into it to have every single thing at the max level just for the status. And that's all what it is. After that, my card game kind of just waned in and out. For a little while, I was really into Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel because it was online. It was like the most comprehensive place to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Online.
You get this like very specific sort of like blind universe, one very specific eye look. I can't even explain it, but it's like, and you get it so, I call it your concerned owl look. You get it so explicitly when you play that Yu-Gi-Oh! Game online. Dude, it is like, it's honestly it's inspiring to see how much you dedicate to these card games. It's no different than the amount I dedicate to my comic historiographies. And if you think it's any different, I think like the way you have an unbelievable collection of shiny Pokemon, or you have a collection of infinite stamps, is no different than my collection of notes that I've accrued over the years by reviewing and writing about these comics. So I do just mean to say that I do think it's a very attractive thing. The thing you're referring to, the way you play these games, specifically the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel game in question.
And thank you for my credentials in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Before they added Diamond, I was the highest I think at that point was Platinum 1, so I hit Platinum. I was Platinum 5 the first season.
How many letters do you have to put after your name? You're just like Jonah, Rubino, YGO, comma MS.
Listen, we're not even going to add the League of Legends stint, my League of Legends stint for the very long time that I played that game.
LOL.
I am just somebody who likes to be competitive. I like it's. I am a competitive person. I like being competitive. I like being the best, and it's why I always hit infinite. Well, now always hit infinite. But that's where my card game history comes from. Where my credentials are. I'm good at card games. Apparently I'm pretty good at card games, or I at least understand enough to get me high enough rank that I don't have to care anymore. But card games have this thing of you kind of always have to keep up. You kind of always have to. You always have to be buying new packs. You always have to be. If you are somebody who's like, I'm going to tournaments. This is how I make my money, or I want to win money, or I want this credentials if I'm winning this thousands upon people tournaments. You have to be playing the best decks. You can try to play what they call a rogue deck, which isn't what people expect you to play, but you might not be as consistent, or your deck might not be as consistent, or whatever.
And it's sort of like when you talk about people who work weekend gigs, like we live by the Jersey Shore. We have Asbury Park behind me, and there's the See Here Now festival this weekend. There are people who can literally make their living on just working weekend bar gigs at the shore, but you have to know the right restaurant. And I think that's a lot of what you're saying. There really is an economy to this game. And to simply write off the gambling, look, it's gambling. I am not here to say that gambling, which is an illness in many ways when it is an addiction, is a problem. But as somebody who can smoke all day and not feel too bad about it, not everything that you do all day is an addiction. And gambling can actually be a legitimate income for many people. And I only mean to say that, what you're saying really speaks to the heart of you can make a living via gambling without it being, quote unquote, you're a degenerate. And that's just a really important
safety and moderation.
Thing. Not everybody who works at a bar is a dumb drunk, and not everybody who makes a living via gambling and competitive card play is someone to be looked down upon. And I just really think it's important to consider the things you're saying are important elements of understanding how math is strategy, is gameplay.
But to answer the second part of the question that you asked, the collectible aspect regarding at least Marvel Snap and the variants that you can get, it's a status thing. It's being like, I have this variant that you don't have. I have these effects on it that you don't have. Look how gorgeous it is. Sometimes you just play a deck of your favorite variants that have cool effects, and you're like, look at me. These are all my favorites. Look at the time I spent in. Because oh boy, I hit a particular combo on an America Chavez variant, and I am so happy about it. I have an inked America Chavez. It's the variant which is going like this. Everybody knows that cover. Which also a lot of the art. There is plenty of art that is commissioned specifically for Marvel Snap, but there's also a lot of it that is just variant artwork. It is just pulling those variant covers that we talk about into the game, and it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. You can kind of have both. You can kind of have your cake and eat it too if you want that variant cover, or if you want it in game.
Actually, TK, I have to ask you a question. Can you imagine, just suspend reality for a moment, and imagine that every nerd with a huge variant collection could have a magic floating number above their head ranking their variant collection?
I want that's out of the realm of possibility.
Oh, right? Because I would be really proud of my number no matter what it was. Because that's even what I'm trying to say. It's not about having every variant, but it's about having the covers that matter to you. When I think about some of the most important covers of all time, I think about I mean to say like visual variants of all time. I think about the unbelievable and unforgettable. I'll see if I can find the image to send Kevo. The unbelievable cover set of Invincible Iron Man by Matt Fraction. Those variants, the tech variants of, I think it's Stark Disassembled 20 through 25 or 20 through 24 are some of the most beautiful design, unforgettable variants I have ever seen in my life. Some of them are worth an unbelievable amount of money, like quite legitimately. Yet at the same time, my all-time favorite cover set is Daredevil Decalogue by Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev, which is one of the most unbelievable set of covers, and it's the standard. So, I think one of the things that I'm also trying to get at is, as much as I'm paying attention to the beautiful quality of, oh gosh, wow, when you Google Daredevil Decalogue, you get my Twitter. Okay.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised.
As much as I love, variants, I also want to say that something that Marvel Snap went out of their way to put a lot of attention, a lot of detail, and a lot of love into is the base cards. Base cards are stunning in this game. And something that has not escaped my notice is that there are actually almost as many cards as there are Marvel Contest of Champions champions. And if you program an algorithm, like if you're like a math fag, right? Oh, Kevo, literally the 5 greatest covers of all time. If you do the math on how fast cards are coming out versus how fast Marvel Champions came out, Marvel Snap is going to easily eclipse Marvel Contest of Champions with a number of champions very quickly. Not to mention, anytime a secondary character appears in Marvel Snap, Jonah, please correct me if I'm wrong, they're a variant. There isn't 2 different Daredevil cards. There are Daredevil variants. They might even release a new variant, but they don't release a new Daredevil card. In comparison, Marvel Contest of Champions just literally reissued Iron Man. Literally. They have replaced the original model of the original Iron Man design because he was kind of nerfed by virtue of the game becoming harder and easier in other ways. So my question for you, Jonah and TK, Jonah, correct me if I'm wrong, there are no actual, other additions of characters in Marvel Snap. But what do you guys think about the fact that Contest of Champions allows for the fact that you can have duplicate versions of characters that are separately playable characters, but as far as I know, every version of a character in Snap is linearly locked into that initial release?
Yes. So outside of, in the case of there being Thor and Jane Foster, the mightiest Thor.
Oh, that's
if
awesome.
Somebody shares a title, but if the mantle is passed down, but they are completely original, separate, different character, there will be two different versions, but they are distinct. You will know which character it is. Granted, they just stated that they might be coming back for certain characters. So, like Robbie Reyes, who's currently the All Rider, there is a Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider variant, but it's specifically the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. So that might be a little confusing we'll see what they decide to do.
Can I just make a joke that TK will appreciate? Oh, you mean like what Ghost Rider was that in Daredevil and Echo? Oh my God. Oh my God. I think Taboo and B. Earl are two of the most fantastic writers in literally working comics. They make a mythology like nobody's business. The Murdoch ancestor and the Echo ancestor that they created are like Kulan Gath battle ready. But oh my God, what Ghost Rider was that? Was that Cover Ghost Rider? You know, Cover Gallery. That's his legal
Cover
name.
Ghost Rider.
Cover Ghost Rider.
The spirit, your walk.
What character was that?
But there's like a variant card that you can have that I own. I own the Throg Thor variant. Throg isn't actually an alternate version of Thor. It is a completely different character, but Throg is niche enough and kind of doesn't really serve a purpose outside of just, being worthy of holding. I can say this with all the love that I love Throg, but also I'm not wrong.
How dare you?
Why would you boo me when I'm right?
I one time spoke to a friend of mine who was like an active comic reader when the Walt Simonson run of Thor was coming out and was like, I know you worship this, but you know that when it came out, everybody thought it was silly, right? And I was like, no, everybody takes it very seriously, like game shows. And he was like, Nico, no. And I was like, no, it's the way everybody takes, Solid Gold really seriously, right? And he was like, Nico, no. So, Jonah, to your point, even when Throg was a viable element of canon, it was always kind of a joke.
But yes, but there most likely will not be a Throg separate card unless they've literally gone through the list of every single other character.
Or they case pitch for Pet Avengers.
Well, we have variants for some of the Pet Avengers.
I think Pet Avengers is quite literally one of the most if Marley and Me can make $200 million, I think Pet Avengers can make $600 million.
This has been my pitch for 2 decades.
But then again, my dog is my best friend. So.
The Justice League, the Pet Justice League movie do?
You know what? I think the reality is that Crypto and Ace and Speedy, I think that those three are such recognizable elements of sort of like the DC pop culture vernacular. I feel like they exist in a place alongside the Gotham Bombshells, which anybody who ever wants to check out the best interpretations of cosplay of the Gotham Bombshells I've ever seen, please check out the Comic Canary over on Twitter. Her unbelievable cosplays of the Gotham Bombshells. I think she's done like 6 of them at this point. 3 of them are award-winning. She is a stunner in those. But yeah, I really agree with you. There's a lot of ways in which they're sort of relegated to sort of like, oh, cover gallery coolness. People don't really take the Justice League dogs or the Justice League pets seriously as characters. They recognize them as iconography, and that is a very different creature.
Fair. All the point being, yes, you were originally correct in that there's no separate Ghost Rider that has a different cost and has a different power and a different effect than what the initial release of Ghost Rider is. To your other question, it's one of those things in a lot of different kind of gacha style games where there's this seasonal variant and you can only pull it for this amount of time. Ooh, we're going to re-release this character in a different costume. It is very par for the course of a lot of different gacha style games where they'll re-release popular characters, whether it's a different costume or a different look, or if it's a specific look to the game. Looking at you, what's her name? 2099? One of the 2099 characters is original to that game.
Guillotine 2099.
Thank you.
And you know what? You actually developed a love for Golden Age characters. Not that you didn't have respect for the past, right? You like old guys. But, you discovered your love of Black Widow Clairvoyant through getting the variant for her. Actually, in Marvel Contest of
In Marvel
Champions,
Contest of Champions, she
when you're like, Snapster.
no, that's a different guy on YouTube.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh God, puns are so unavailable these days. So
Yes, they are. Everything is taken.
now, TK, when we talk about, the idea of a variant and just changing what's on the outside, replacing the idea of a character with an ability set, that's what's tricky for me. Sometimes when I play these either Marvel Contest of Champions or Snap style games, where a character is boiled down to either one ability in the case of Snap or 5 or 6 abilities and maybe animations in the case of Marvel Contest of Champions, one of the things that stands out to me is that is not the comic book iteration that I've come to love after 20, 30 years of reading in the case of some of these characters. I find myself maybe unable to rectify the identity with the power set or the simplified just like move ability on a card. How do you feel as somebody who, I think in many ways you are one of the great canonistas. You care about the canon that matters, but when canon is clearly too stupid to deal with, I am looking at you, Azazel. You understand how to massage it out of the situation without ignoring it exactly. How do you feel about the idea that characters can be boiled down to this basic identity when you and I have talked extensively about how so many people only know who Thanos is through things like Marvel vs. Capcom?
Something like a card game, I don't really care. Because what is it? It's all the functionality of the game. It's not, the Jean Grey card isn't going if telekinesis has to be a function of the card game, not of Jean Grey's identity in the game. Where in something character based, that's less true. Like, it's still going to be a function of the game, but in a much more moldable sense, where you're actually going to be having to kind of see some animations that go along with that. There's going to be, real world physics and that type of stuff or in-game physics that come into that. With a card game, it's much more values and operations. So I don't really care.
Can I quickly cut in?
Of course.
Marvel Snap actually has some very fascinating cases of really good examples of flavor, and I have to use two characters that are actually intertwined lore-wise, at least I know of. Mojo's ability is if the entire location is full on both sides, he gets more power, because what does Mojo love more than an audience? There's a location.
That is an unbelievable joke. Jesus.
The location in the game, Mojo World, is if you have more cards there than your opponent, you have plus 100 power at that location. Dazzler's effect, and going hand in hand, Dazzler, for every location that you have personally filled, she gets more power, because Dazzler gets powered up by the bigger the audience that she personally has.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And
I love a reference moment like that, where the function of the mechanics can work to reference a character's real life, but I don't really care.
Well, can we call that the Lux Noir combo because it's a reference queen?
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, I don't super care about.
Oh my God, Lux Noir as the Grace Jones Dazzler would be literally one of the greatest gifts she could give the entirety of X-Men fandom.
I think so.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. You were saying.
No, that's it. That's kind of it. Like, I don't really, for card games, it doesn't really bother me. For something like Contest of Champions, it would be a different story.
How about you, Jonah? I know you came to comics a little bit as like a secondary element of being influenced by the culture, whereas, TK and I came to comics a little bit more when you had to like work to find them, even if they were selling a far greater number. It's fascinating the way conversation share has changed in regard to audience share. Jonah, you are reading comics in the great age of conversation share, but certainly not in the great age of audience share. Do you feel in any way maybe betrayed or sidelined by coming to a character through their card and then finding out that ability has nothing to do with the character?
Yes and no. So there's a character, Adam Warlock, whose ability is if you are winning the location, you get to draw a card, which is a very powerful effect in theory in Marvel Snap when your deck size is 12.
Oh my God, Adam Warlock is always so overpowered. I just want to put my head
Adam
through a
Warlock
wall.
is 2 power and is 2 cost with 0 power. So you have to really work for it if you want to you really want that card draw. So it was an example of they wanted to have this ability, but they didn't have a character to map it to. So they kind of just had to throw it on to somebody, and they chose Adam Warlock, and it's whatever. Who cares? But there are times where where I love that they can make a flavor example out of it, but other times where I'm like, I understand that it doesn't actually make so much sense. Like, for example, Mystique's ability is that if the last card that you played has the tag ongoing, she will copy that effect. However, Mystique doesn't actually copy the powers of other people. She can look like other people, but she doesn't have their powers.
Yeah, she doesn't suddenly have the ability to shoot fire at you because she's copied the Human Torch. It's not his genetic code. She copies his body, not his augmentations.
Yes. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I get what you're trying to do, and there really isn't the other, there isn't really another example of a character that can kind of do what Mystique does, at least to my knowledge in the Marvel verse. So it's one of those things where Mystique is popular. It kind of makes sense flavor wise, but it's not 1-to-1. But I'm not one of those comic nerds of it has to be 1-to-1 accurate lore to the comics, canon only, no side stories that didn't count, no alternate timelines, no alternate universes. No, I'm not one of those people. I'm like, oh, cool. If the character I like has a cool ability, like, we maybe for October, the season pass card might be Elsa Bloodstone, which means they don't have to pull for her. Which means
it ties into her amazing Werewolf by Night special that's coming out this year. I think it came out this past week. This week. So can't say enough about, if you're an Elsa Bloodstone fan, you should also check out the Huluween re-airing of Werewolf by Night for Hulu subscribers. That is a way to say, hey, do you like this? You might want to check out Disney Plus. They're doing everything you like Elsa Bloodstone? They're doing everything they can to make her very accessible.
Later this holiday season, they're going to release a colorized version of it as well on D+.
Oh my God, they're doing everything they can to give Harriet Sansom Harris all the credit she deserves.
I hope it looks really cool in retro.
Retro. If you want a Moroccan feel, put a cushion on the floor.
So, all right. I think we're at a great point where I maybe want to wrap up the Snap discussion. So here's my final say on Snap. As a guy who thinks that all things card game are cooler than kind of all things anything else, Snap is an exciting opportunity to play with the Marvel characters through cards. But just like Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, there are a few sort of weaknesses to the system. I think the ongoing gameplay element, where just simply the existence of having played longer makes you a more competitive player, as Jonah said, once you've reached Infinite. It's just simpler to reach Infinite. It makes someone like me, who has not yet reached Infinite, feel like I simply can't enter. I made the analogy earlier of Daredevil after 30 years versus Daredevil after 60 years. I feel like now I wouldn't know how to enter Daredevil. I wouldn't even begin to know how. But when I started in 1994, it was really easy to grasp 30 years because only about 8 years were available in trade. I want to wrap up our Snap discussion by saying my thought is, after only 1 year, at the rapid rate of increase on media, Snap has produced such an incredible library of characters. While I definitely think it's one of the absolute best mobile games on the market, it can be a little overwhelming, much like something like Star Trek or the Marvel Universe itself, which are so all-encompassing, but always worth it. TK, Jonah, and Kevo, you've been listening to all of this. You've been our passenger victim. It's one word. How do you guys feel about the nature of Snap, the competitive gameplay, this little Mr. Infinite over in the lower right-hand corner, and the nature of a game that, and after only 1 year, is meant to represent 70 years of the Marvel Universe.
Hitch hostage.
Hitch hostage. Good gracious, Mr.
God bless you.
That's my favorite German dish. You always find amazing ways to make me laugh, right? So, guys, what do you think about the nature of a game like Snap, the basis of the game, and its year-in anniversary alongside its PC port?
You said it best. Year-in anniversary. This is a year. This is nothing. I think a year in, it's still not that difficult to get into. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to. I do think developers should be doing more to show you what the on-roads are and give those opportunities. I think that's true of basically every game, and particularly competitive ones, or at least facilitating communities that do it. But yeah, I mean, this is not going to be the same game 5 years from now. So year one, I'm just kind of like, we'll see if it even lasts.
Did you hear that, Snap? You're on a timer.
Could be.
You're on blast.
It's a Snap Blast. Jonah, talk to us. What is your Snap Blast? As a guy who's reached infinite, what seems like an infinite number of times, 8 out of 11. I just want to know, how do you feel a year into this experience as somebody who has been playing Snap with some amount of, honestly, dedication at this point? How do you feel approaching a year in, a month from now?
At its core, Marvel Snap has a very, very fun core game how many times I take a shot every time I say core. At its core, it is one of those games that by design they hit the nail on the head of what exactly we wanted to do: bite-sized card matches. However, I can't sit here and say I'm exactly ecstatic with a lot of the direction that they've gone in when it comes to card acquisition, especially for somebody like me who I'm only missing 9 cards for my collection, including the most recent card that they came out with, Alioth, the big purple thing from Loki.
If I may check, does that include variants? Are you saying that you have all of
No.
Okay.
No. Base cards. Base cards.
You have all but 9 of the base deck available cards, and you have some number of the variants.
I have a large amount of variants, but nowhere near variant complete. And you would have to put in maybe I would guess $100,000. You would probably get close. There's a lot of variants. I think there's maybe one person I can think of who's very complete. I don't know. Like one person who's put that amount of money into it. No, base card that you can collect. I'm only missing 9 cards. And it's just unfortunate that they keep reducing the methods outside of paying yourself to get it. I think some of the direction they're going in works. I think there's a better balance where they can still make their money and still, because I was here for when you guys pointed it out. These are companies. Companies are trying to make money. And I'm not going to fault a company for trying to make money, but as a player and as a consumer, I am a little discouraged and disheartened from wanting to put more money into the game when it's not as accessible as I would like. I think there's a better balance that they could be doing. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I know it's not what it's currently at right now. So outside of some major changes, I don't know. You look at these life cycles, and granted, it's Marvel. You'll always have Marvel fans who want to play whatever it is. It's just one of those things of like, if things don't really change, I don't know. Am I going to be playing, in 5 months and a year from now?
That's a really great question. It's funny because I've been playing Marvel Contest of Champions for 7 years. I've never even thought about the fact that I might stop one day. I hope there's at that point some way to like export all of the images of the characters you have, and it's going to just be taking screenshots, I guess. But, I never even would consider what if you stop playing. I can't think of a whole lot of game franchises I've stopped playing outside of game franchises that have stopped. And I think that has to do with the availability of things the availability, like that, Sorry about that. The availability of things that replace things you don't even realize have done so. The number of games that replace things that I didn't even realize I've forgotten. We recently talked about 1993, and through that opportunity to walk down memory lane, I've had an opportunity to think about games like Kudelka and the nature of the whole Shadow Hearts legacy, and how many of those games don't even exist anymore. I have forgotten altogether about a number of the games that TK has indicated are going to be on our very exciting 1993 video game bracket. And one of the things about that that's so interesting to me is how often you don't even consider that something like Marvel Snap, which took 2022 by an enormous storm. I mean, this thing won so many awards for Mobile Game of the Year. It's hard to imagine that somebody like Jonah, a guy who's ranked 8 out of 11 times, wouldn't keep playing at year 3. But that's the nature of how new ranked players in year 3 come to be ranked. And that's what's really exciting. TK, Kevo, TK, I know you gave your piece already. I just always want to never forget anybody. Kevo, do you have any thoughts on Snap as we move into just like our sort of footnote games at the end?
Sounds fun.
Sounds fun. Well,
Good to hear, folks.
Like they said in Buffy season 1, from the mouths of babes, and that was the first time that was ever said. So I want to point to 3 games that are sort of, I don't want to say maybe footnotes on this big.
There are other mobile games.
There are other mobile games, but perhaps they're not the mobile games that necessarily are dominating Marvel's gameplay at the moment. We have Marvel Future Fight, Marvel Puzzle Quest, and Marvel Super War. Marvel Puzzle Quest is, like we said at the beginning of the episode, just sort of a switch 'em. It's a 3 in a row style game, up to 5 in a row, 6 in a row, all gives you unique benefits. But as a rule, Marvel Puzzle Quest is sort of the simple, fun game you want it to be. Marvel Future Fight, yikes.
Future Fight.
I wasn't sure if I was going to say Super War or Future Fight next, and it came out Future Fight, because that was equal parts Future Fight and Super War. Because the truth is, I don't know enough about Super War. Super War is completely TK's domain. Unfortunately, while Super War was released in 2019, it was not released in the United States the way Future Fight was. I played Future Fight. I play Puzzle Quest kind of sort of now and then whenever I need another switch 'em up game. Jonah, do you have any relationship with these? Because you definitely made an "oh, I'm so excited" face.
No, it's because there's one that's missing, which speaks to how irrelevant it actually is. Marvel Strike Force.
Oh, yikes. Gosh, as soon as you said it, I realized I forgot it. Ugh. And I've literally been working on this episode for 4 days. And I've gone on Marvel Strike Force.
Oh, yeah.
And I've literally gone on Google Play 4, 5, 6 times, just going through the Marvel games, just clicking on the Marvel things. And Marvel
4, 5, 6, 8.
I feel nothing compares to remembering Strike Force alone. I feel terrible. Not really, but yeah, I kind of do. One of the things about having so many options in Marvel gaming is that it gives you the opportunity to consider all of the different ways you experience not just the Marvel universe, but gameplay. TK, you're one of the few people I know who have had the opportunity to experience Marvel Super War, and the ways that it's never come to the US is so frustrating because of the incredibly highly way you speak about it. Do you want to talk about Marvel Super War for like 20 seconds?
Yeah, I mean,
Or,
I don't
2 minutes, by all means.
No, it's probably not even going to be 2 minutes. Sorry, it could be less than 20 seconds. But I don't think it's amazing, but it is a MOBA with Marvel characters, and in and of itself, that's a novelty. And as to the discussion before of like characters and powers, that's one that really nails it. There are so many League of Legends fans out there. It's a bummer not to give them that same gameplay with characters we all know and love.
Wait, is it a MOBA or is it a MMO?
MOBA.
Oh, it is a MOBA. Okay.
Yeah.
Like it's primarily
lanes and everything.
in
It's the exact same. What's that?
It's like primarily in the Philippines and Korea.
Yep. It's NetEase, the Chinese company that does a lot of game development and like IP development with Marvel. They're why we have Swordmaster, currently Iron Fist, and Arrow.
Wow, that's a really great perspective. The way that, I pointed out that characters like Guillotine have moved into the comic universe thanks to this game and the game developers, but realizing that it's not just the game and the game's sort of transit characters, but rather just the production companies themselves that are having a humongous influence on the state of the Marvel Universe that is so exciting. Man, this has been 2 hours and 15 minutes touring the Marvel Universe and Marvel gaming that I have enjoyed so much. I want to do a quick sign off with everybody where you can find them and their favorite game we covered today. I want to start with the incredibly handsome man below me who has produced us so exquisitely this whole time. Kevo, what was your favorite thing you heard us talk about? Or if you just want to be like, Emoji Blitz, move on. Totally cool. And where can everybody find you?
You can find me on the socials at Kevo Really. That's KevoReally. Emoji Blitz. But you know, I love how enthused everyone is. I love just what options there are out there for all of this stuff. I think that's really cool.
I love that. Jonah, you know, I know you skipped the the MCoC conversation because, as we previously determined, you were in a life or death snap tournament. I mean, it was you versus the Yakuza. What could you do? But you know, what is your favorite game? Who are you, and where can everybody find you?
You can find me at any social at Peak Jonah. That's Peak, and Marvel Snap. Right now it's Marvel Snap. I play every single day. I do all my missions. I literally do everything. And that is subject to change, but who knows?
Who knows? Here goes. So, TK, you know, we play Marvel Contest of Champions kind of all day, every day. I don't really let you stop playing it. I message you when you haven't started your Alliance quest at 4:15 because by 3:15 it's available. So by 4:15...
You actually don't do that, and it would probably help.
I mean, I message you and I'm like, hey, Alliance Quest buddy, it's 4:02. How are you doing?
That is true. I don't really put those together.
It's my subtle hint.
Well,
So now you
Nice
don't
to meet
get it. But you are handsome. You are my partner. You are somebody I'm so excited to be in a lifelong alliance with. But on top of all of that, where can everybody find you? Who are you? And what is your mobile game?
I'm me. You can find me here or at TK
Mario?
Elemental. I mean, it's Contest of Champions currently, but you know, I wish that I don't have a good Android phone right now to sideload Super War onto, or that would probably be higher up. And I have not found the time to become infinite ranked at Snap, and if I'm not that, then I don't want it. So, you know, Contest of Champions is good though. Don't get me wrong. Every day I find something new where I'm just like, Jesus Christ, they really thought this fucker out.
Did you hear that? He settles for my favorite because it's thoughtful.
No, I settled for it like a year ago, and then I was like, holy shit, this is impressive. And now I'm telling it to the world.
For you.
Well, as for me, the settleable, right? You can find me, Nico, all over the interwebs at Nico Action, where I'm almost certainly tweeting, Xing, or blue skying. I'm not even sure. Blue skeeting about
Blue skeeting.
Oski, goddamn.
Right, about Marvel Contest of Champions, the game that definitely takes up all of my free time when I have nothing else going on. But, you know, the other thing I love doing is making the show for you 3 times a week, every week. We have an unbelievable look at 1993 coming to you on Saturday, plus a fun look at finales out on Sunday. We're going to look at some of our favorite reality finales that have aired in the last 2 weeks. It's going to be a really exciting time. And as always, we only have 3. Marvel Contest of Champions. That's why I said that, right? That's my faves. And as always, we only have 3 requests for all of you. 4. Like, subscribe. That's 1 request with a slash between it. But then, after you subscribe, you get so good about this channel. We have 3 things we want you to do. We want you to, number 1, we want you to stay safe. That's super important. Always, because otherwise, how can you come back to watch the next video? Number 2, we want you to be brave. That is the most important thing you can do. Be you every single day and evolve daily. Become tomorrow's you today. And until then, we'll see you.
Bye.